Thank you for tuning in to the World Builder's Anvil, episode 340. Let's build a season.
Make him our best friend.
Don't know where to start building your fantasy world?
Do you need more? Does it make sense?
Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination.
This is the place where we will prime your mind.
Now, it's time to heat up the forge.
Break out the mithril ingots and hammer.
Welcome to the World Builder's Anvil. I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
Let's sup from the muck of Java and build.
Welcome back. Your best friend as always. My name is Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I am Michael Miller. Very excited. If you weren't aware, Jeff, or listener, dear listener, this is the final episode of the World Builder's Anvil. Season 1.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the last episode, just the last one of season 1. And I tried to argue with Jeff today, and he came back at me with dumb logic that I disagree with, but I'm not in charge. He is. So I said, what we should be starting is season 3. My thought, and for all of the listeners out there, this is how you should approach thinking about this show. Episode 0, which Jeff did make, episode 0 all the way up to episode 78 is just Jeff when he first started the show. And I think that should be season 1. And then when I get on the show at episode 79, up to now, 340 is season 2. Did I say episode 2 when I just episode 1 when I first, am I using the wrong wording? Okay, so the first 0 to 78 is season 1, 79 to 340 season 2, and we're about to start season 3. But then Jeff said, well, no, because I've already been putting all this stuff into programming and I've had to write season 1 for everything, so no.
Yeah, so when you upload a podcast into Relisten or audio host, at some point Apple determined that you had to include a season number and an episode number. And so I just started calling everything season 1.
Season 1.
It was the first season I was making. And so if Michael wants to go back to episode 79 through 300.
Oh, no. This is definitely a job for you. Definitely a job for you. Well,
but we're not going to do that.
But see, it is a decision that we do need to commit to now, because that means every upload from here forward, you want to put season 3.
Yes. No, I want to put season 2 because we've done season 1.
But then we'd have to go back and change these ones also when I put my foot down and say, no, it should still be season 1, season 2, season 3. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not going to win this fight, am I?
No.
Okay. Welcome to season 2, the building of season 2. How to build a season. How to seasonally build.
How to seasonally build. It's like allergies. And for those people, and I don't know if I do this, if I make some offhand reference to the line, make it our best friend every time we do a Let's Build, I think about it every single time.
And this, I don't.
Cannibal the musical.
I don't think you do. What is it from? It's from Cannibal?
Cannibal the musical.
Oh, I love Cannibal. I haven't seen that movie in so long. So, okay.
There's a song, and go YouTube it, called Let's Build a Snowman. And
not to be confused with lines from Frozen. Let's build a... Do you want to build a snowman?
Oh, they do?
They do say that in Frozen, yeah.
They stole from...
Frozen and Disney stole from Trey Parker and Matt Stone's Cannibal the Musical.
That's right.
So the joke is that I opened up the show notes and it says for what does it say for the topic of the day? It says today's topic and make it our best friend. And I'm like, we're building a season. What are you talking about? And he goes, haven't I ever mentioned that? Don't I do that for every build episode? I'm like, I don't think so. So for what he's saying is that for every episode that we have that is a build specific, where we're going to build something, for Jeff's world or for whatever, and we say this is a build episode, this joke comes to his mind. But I don't think you've ever said it to me. So let's build a snowman and make it our best friend.
But there could be snowman references or building references to that. But yes, I'm going to this every time because I am lame.
I'm going to have to start tagging up cross-reference Frozen references with Cannibal the Musical.
I want you to follow the real world task for this episode. And
do you want me to say this now, or? Oh, you want me to go through all the build episodes and find your references?
Yes.
I don't think I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so if for those of you paying attention and those of you not, the basic gist is this is 340. Episode 340, and it will be the last episode of what is our season 1. And the reason for that, and we talked about it on, I think, 333, is that we're changing up things a little bit, how we approach the show and how we deliver the show to you guys. And we're going to a seasonal format. What you guys get from us will still effectively be the same, but it's going to be a little more focused, which will grant us some abilities that we probably weren't taking advantage of as well as we could. And I think that Jeff gets credit for this. This is all Jeff, and it's great. So why don't you take it from me?
Yeah. So I without rehashing all the episode 333, the thing is, I wanted to. My ideas of world building have changed over 340 episodes for the better, I think, and because of that, I kind of want to redress all the stuff. But one of the things I realized is, world building is not a skill you need to learn. At most, it's a skill you need to remember. And it's because everyone knows how to do world building. The thing is, by the time you're 18, you've beaten it out of yourself. Or your parents have helped beat it out of you, largely. So, the thing is, the skills are all there. So the thing is, really, it's about remembering. And when I was going through this book called Small Learning from episode 333, I started to... they're talking about just like little techniques you can use to make people learn better. I'm like, well, if we make people learn better here, it'll just be easier going forward for people. So it'll actually make it useful content besides just being entertaining, which it will still be entertaining. Stories are going to become, or will still be a major part of it, but, we're hopefully going to have more time to plan out episodes. And so the stories will be pre-thought out and how they apply to the topic, instead of us just thinking of something along the way and going, oh. And then we tell a story for 40 minutes and then remember or forget how it's connected. So there'll be some more, it'll be intentional, but it'll all be about making the topic of the episode better. And the seasons will be around a central topic where we kind of talk about it, and then we kind of circle around it from many different angles and try and hit at it from different ways, so you can get the best understanding of that topic possible, but do add some entertainment in as well, because learning that way can be a little tedious. So obviously, we'll have to do things in there to mix it in to keep up the entertainment level as well. But the idea is when we go through season 1, where we're going to talk about what is world building, we'll talk about the central axis of world building and how we look at it, but we'll do it from a structured way. And most of the episodes, will follow a format of 3 things. We're going to talk about what you know, and part of it will be just our anecdotal information of what we've heard from people or articles we've seen online. But the thing is, it helps awaken in your mind the topic, because, the thing is, often when you talk about something, from a thing is, you have the conception that the person either knows nothing, or they know stuff that you might not know that you don't know necessarily what they know. But the thing is, if you can waken up in someone's mind what they know, whatever you talk about, they will remember better. It's just the way human minds work, is because you've brought them on topic. You've got their mind starting to work around it before you go in to talk about it from your perspective. So then we'll talk about it from our perspective, and then we'll talk about what to do. And there'll be action-oriented type of stuff. They won't try and be comprehensive in the fact that it won't try and shove everything about world building into one episode. But the thing is, it will try and get you to this 1, 2, or 3 things that you can take away and move ahead with. Because that way you have sort of action steps you can take to move forward, to make your world building a little bit better. But it also won't be overwhelming to where if I did, a course on world building, which I see people do out there, I think that the problem is ultimately that's just way too much at one time. So the thing is, it's going to be in a structure where it's free and it's out there, and we're going to come up with some tools to maybe help make it more accessible to people.
I feel like
framework.
I feel like part of what we're doing is we're throwing darts differently, right? Whereas before we'd have a whole wall And that whole wall is covered with different ideas that we can use to do a world building discussion, whether it's talking about color, talking about writing and story structure, 3-act structure, talking about creating cultures or what have you. And basically we're throwing a dart at a wall, and that's what we're going to use as our subject for the week, right? Whereas now I feel like we're picking a big topic and it's a dartboard instead of the whole wall. And now we're just throwing darts onto a small dartboard where it's all a focused subject. We're going to hit it from different angles, just like what you said, but we're also going to pick different subjects that are on that topic. So like, for instance, we might be like, okay, well, this season, and maybe it's 5 episodes, maybe it's 10 or 20 episodes, but this season we're going to talk about cities. So we'll talk about it from an infrastructure, and then maybe a cultural perspective. We'll talk about it from a mapping perspective, or maybe a weather perspective, like, because of where the city is located, this is the kind of weather you get to deal with, you know what I mean? And how does that weather affect the people, and thus what are the people like, so the season will be cities, but the different episodes are going to be all these different ways to go about it within your world. So I'm excited about how we're going to approach this. I'm honestly, a piece of me is a little intimidated because a little bit, because I feel like we're jumping into a deeper pool with a thinner water. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
the thing is, it's much easier talking about world building in the way I originally did. If you go those first 79 episodes, a lot of them were strictly world building kind of episodes, and I would go at it from my original approach, which was, I call it the world building basics, and the idea is like people and culture and geography. These are what world building are, and that's a way to go through world building and do it. And there's nothing wrong with using that approach. The problem with the idea is ultimately, if people ask the same questions, there are less correct answers. And so
how do you mean? What do you mean? There's
so like if I ask you a question, usually people have a few ideas of what's right. So if I give you, here are the 5 things that you have to ask to know what a culture is in your world.
Yeah.
Then the thing is, you're probably going to come up with the answer I give you.
Mm-hmm.
So your idea of what a culture is will be just what mine is, and that's fine. But the thing is, I have a tendency to think that kind of creates, groupthink and fiction, where the idea is everyone ends up kind of doing the same thing at the same time, because they're all coming at it from the same perspective. And so I kind of wanted to go at it from a different perspective, where, world building and storytelling is really ultimately about language. And when you world build, you're creating nouns. So you're creating the people, place, things, ideas, actions, and qualities of your world. Mm-hmm. Storytelling is the verb, and using some adjectives to get the nouns out there. So it's the action side of world building, where you now are sharing it with someone. So going away from the traditional thing of the cosmos, and those things are still in there because you have people and places, obviously. But it's thinking about it from the perspective of nouns, and how world building really is the act you're building nouns. I'm building the city high wall, or Klein Forest, or whatever I want to call it. What are the qualities of high wall? That's world building. And really, you have the skill to do it. So it's about circling around it, like Michael said, and throwing darts from different directions. Some of the darts might not make sense to you, but some of the darts will get you home. They'll get you to the bullseye. And ultimately, when you're done with the process of throwing all of those darts, you're going to come away stronger and not need other people to go, I don't care what world building is anymore. I know what world building is. Maybe I need some more questions, or I want to strengthen myself, and that's fine. But the idea is really, world building is the art of just making up nouns. It's just making up words. I see my son do it. It's amazing watching a small mind growing into that and going, oh, this is garbage truck. A garbage truck's going to talk to recycling truck, blah, 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 blah. And, he creates the world and the rules for the toys and how they interact. And every month or so, it's a little bit more complicated than it was before, and then traditionally, by the time you get to school, school and parents start quashing it out of you. They start telling you, stop that.
Stop pretending.
It's time to be an adult.
It's time to be a grown-up. You're too old. You're too old for that.
And then you just forget. It's a very simple act, world building, so I'm trying to really simplify it, but address it in a way to give you different opportunities and approaches to get to your world building.
The thing that's funny about that is it almost sounds like you're relearning how to world build by just observing your son. Like he's teaching you again.
Mm-hmm. He's teaching me what I forgot, which, I spent a lot of years coming up with great questions, and which is, I think, why my world building is engaging, and it's designed to interact with the storytelling side of things, which is just a byproduct of me. But the thing is, they're not necessarily the right questions. And, and that kind of gets into some ideas that we've developed over the show too, of frames and realizing what you're doing, and the idea of frames are really important because it does constrain your world building towards that area. But once again, we'll get back into frames. We'll get how all the pieces are working together, and maybe come up with some tools along the way to make it easier for you to world build, but to let it be your world and not just get a great book from a great world builder and try and build a world the way they did, which is a great way to learn. But it's ultimately, I think, there's always a level of that in you when you world build. You've learned a little bit from everyone you've interacted with. But the thing is, I think if you're looking to create your world, your art, ultimately, you have to progress past that. You have to progress past just the imitation, and even though it's influencing you still, it's just saying, this is my take on how I want the world to be. We want it to be your world, not mine. Even though mine's the best.
Well, I mean, that's one opinion.
Yeah. Probably just one too. So maybe.
No, I think your world's pretty awesome. And all of you should find out when the book comes out and buy a copy so that you find out. So since we're moving to our season 2, have you thought about, because we've bounced around a couple of things, but have you considered what you want our season 2 to start with, or whatever our first topic of the new season, and subsequently what will determine what our first bevy of shows will be about?
Well, the first bevy of shows will be about what is world building, but thinking about it from a simpler standpoint, what I just talked about there, I think is.
So that's going to be season 2. What is world building?
What is world building? But it's going to be going around and addressing people, place, thing, ideas, actions, and qualities, but from a very high level. Because one of the approaches, I'm a top-down world builder.
Mm-hmm.
I like to see the big picture and then drill into things that I want to know about, or drill into the frames that I want to tell stories about. And we'll kind of get into all of that into, I think, season 2. But we'll start off with what is world building, 2020. And
I like that.
Yeah, and I'm not going to talk about what I used to think. Not as in trying to draw parallels or differences. But I will talk a little bit.
We'll probably. I think it'll be inevitable that we'll make some comparisons.
Is what you know, right?
Right.
So what or what are the questions you would ask about cosmos and all of these things. So we might reference it as part of what but the thing is, ultimately, it's more about the core of it and trying to get to the heart, but then spending time about what are people and what are places, what are things, because those are what really world building is, right? It's the people. So often people think character development is not part of world building. That's flawed logic. Places people think are world building, but people they forget are. And the places reflect the people. And that in itself, if you can take those 2 steps, season 2 will be easy, because that's how people interact with the world, is they interact with where they are, ultimately, maybe with a thing or 2.
Do you mind if I get a little meta and just talk about the show and you mind? Okay.
No, I mean, I don't mind.
For those of you that are newer listeners, I just want to reiterate a little bit about, where we're coming from. Jeff, I'm just going to give you some brief history. Jeff and I have known each other, at this point, at least 20 years, at least. A little more.
It's hard to say, because I kind of knew of you before I knew you.
Yeah, and it's same here.
I don't remember exactly when I met you.
Yeah.
I got to know you really well when you moved back to Connecticut from New York. But we weren't before then.
We weren't playing at a table before I moved to New York.
We probably did. So I probably knew you pretty well, but I think we started becoming really good friends after you came
Well, this is a brief history, so let's not get too thick into it. So the basic gist is Jeff and I go back a good 20 years, and Jeff is one of a number of friends of mine who has been a GM, who has built his own world to do tabletop role playing, and that has evolved, and that has become its own thing. Where now he's written 3 novels that will be coming out. Where Jeff comes to this subject is from that perspective, is that a world builder, a storyteller, really at heart,
interactive storyteller.
Yeah, and I did a podcast with my wife for about a year. Jeff did the World Builders Anvil by himself for the first 78 episodes, 79 if you count episode 0, and then turned to me and asked me if I would join the show, which I am eternally grateful for and very humbled by you asking me. And again, I thank you for doing it because we have.
That's when we became really good friends.
Well, but not only that it's that we have multiple published authors in our friend circle. I am not the only choice you had. There was plenty of other people that easily could have been your co-hosts for this show. And I was very humbled that you asked me and very, I didn't know that we'd still be doing it like more than 200 episodes later, or not quite two. Actually, I haven't been on for quite 200 episodes yet, right? I'm doing my math correctly on that one. 79, 170. Oh yeah, more than 200. Yeah, more than more than 200 episodes later. Yeah, it would have been 279. Sorry, I saw them. I can't math today. So it's been a long journey. It's been an amazing experience for me. Jeff comes from the show, like I said, as a storyteller and a builder. I come to the show as a consummate avatar, and we talk about the idea of the avatar not too much these days, but the idea of the avatar is the person you're trying to speak to, the person you're trying to reach with the thing that you're creating, whether it is a game, whether it is a book, a video game, a comic book, artwork. The avatar is the person that you want to share this with. So I am a huge consumer of these medias, video games, movies. I love good fantasy books, comic books. I love this stuff. So I come from, and I'm also a storyteller myself. So I come to this show from that perspective. I like to take the mantle of you guys in the seat of the chair on the show. So Jeff is the one teaching. I love to teach as well. So I try to generate and help as much as I can. But I also think about what it's like to receive that building information, what it's like to receive that that fictional information, that story, that character, whatever we're working on. And I try to come at it from that approach and help to be your guys' voice on the show. So I certainly have done a lot of writing. I don't write a lot these days myself. It is something that I want to get back to. But just so that you guys get who we are and what we're about, the biggest thing that I like to call myself, and it sounds funny every time I say it, is I'm a cheerleader. I really am. I believe in you guys. I think you guys are amazing. We did a writing exercise with our closed Facebook group a while back. And I still love thinking about that because I got to see samples of writing from a whole bunch of listeners that, and got to interact with it. We all took turns doing a story circle. So I would write a part, then I passed it off to Jeff. He would write a part, then he'd pass it off to somebody else. Then they'd write a part. And everybody was manipulating the same characters within a story that everybody got to influence and change. So
unplanned too. So it'd be
completely unplanned. There was,
I mean, set up something and they would either ignore it or they would crush it. And
But the big
because it forces you to think.
But the big part is that my point in mentioning that is that I believe in you guys. I've seen the proof. You guys are amazing, and I want to see you guys succeed. I want you guys to get your novel out. I want you to make your game. I want you to finish that comic book, make that artwork, or create that campaign for that tabletop game you're working on. Right. Absolutely. And Jeff's big thing is that he wants to be the epicenter of the creation for 1 million new fictional worlds. And wow, what a grand concept to take on. And that's a big part of what this show is about, is helping you guys create what you want to create. So I really just wanted to put some of that out there because we haven't talked about it from that perspective in a long time. And it's the end of season 1, 340 episodes later. So I want to thank you guys. I want to thank all the listeners for your contributions on the website, on the close Facebook group. The interactions you guys have with each other is great to watch. We have a few listeners that are constantly putting up really great resources. And I love it, guys. And just thank you all so much for listening to the show, for allowing me to be a part of your lives, and, for welcoming us into your ears.
Yes. So goodbye, World Builders Anvil. Long live World Builders Anvil.
Well, I mean, it's not goodbye World Builders Anvil. It's goodbye season 1.
Well, I was trying to think of the line for the Kings, right? It's like, the king is dead, long live the king.
The king is dead, long live.
Anvil is dead, long live the anvil.
You've used that before. We used that on an episode a while back. Oh, you are very original.
To joke about no one's original, and I'm so old at this point, I'm not even original with my own statements.
All right, so season 2 coming soon, really. Next week.
Next episode.
Yeah. Next episode, we're going to start with what is world building. And I love the 2020 there, because as we've realized that as time has progressed, our perspectives on the subject have changed. So, I love the idea of writing a show and having a show be evergreen, but I also like the idea of acknowledging that things, they change over time. We change, we evolve.
Get the job done. Let's find a better way. Let's get her done a little better.
Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the episodes that we want to do within the subject? Do you want to brainstorm at all, or do you just want to close the show down?
I want to close the show down.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to say to all the listeners? Any acknowledgments? You want to say anything really nice to me? No, not so much.
Nothing comes to mind.
I love how I can lay it on thick
together. And, it's been very hectic, since Eric's been born. I've been growing a business, and Michael has changed jobs a couple of times. And,
oh my God, more than a couple of times.
There's been multiple reasons for the anvil to have died. We don't make money doing this yet. Hopefully that will change too. But ultimately, this is a passion project for me.
Yeah.
My goal is to make 1 million other people make 1 million worlds. That does not indicate revenue. There's no revenue goal for the show. I was working full time, doing IT analyst work when I started doing this. This is a passion project because I'm over philosophical and I like talking about crap for really long periods of time. And Michael's a great person to chat to.
Thanks.
So I think we make a good team, and I look forward to seeing you guys in season 2. And I'm going to really work to try and become much more interactive in the Facebook group. Right now it's pretty much community driven. And it wasn't always, but it's kind of gotten that way due to the necessity of life. And hopefully we're going to have some interactive elements with every episode with the community in the Facebook group. So for the World Builder Anvil's task, I've built a new world times 2, but really it's go to facebook.com/groups/Undercroft. Join the conversation there. Probably going into episodes, and after episodes release, especially there'll be a thing of trying to figure out what you know about this subject and what you can share to teach us, because ultimately it's about building better tools to help it easier for people to create their worlds faster and quicker. So, these 10 million forms of media that now exist can be filled with the worlds of the anvil builders. So that's a really lame name.
We'll work on it.
The Amblers.
the Amblers. Would it be Anvilers?
Anvilers.
Or would it, or do we really just want to go what we're actually talking about is a blacksmith? Are we talking world blacksmiths?
A blacksmith would be the guy who,
or smithy. The smithies. Go down.
We have the Guild of World Builders.
World building smithies. Go see the smithy and get your world.
Go to the world building street, and Michael World Builder will make you a world. But yes, let's get there.
Love it.
So make better worlds.
So yeah, go to the close Facebook group, the World Builders, Fantasy World Builders Undercroft. I find if you just search for the word Undercroft, it's a very fast way to find us. And for the real world task, re-listen to the first 340 episodes. You could just do that today, all 300. Yeah.
So order.
Yeah.
Take notes and send them back and let us know all of the stuff that we want to know. And we don't know what that is right now, but we'll need to know it at some point.
And we are open to, like, we're going to be choosing this stuff, but we are certainly open to, if you guys have an idea for a season, if there's something that you're struggling with or something you want us to cover, we're open to recommendations. So feel free to jump in there, shoot us a message. We're happy to hear it.
Most definitely. We hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day and a wonderful week, and we'll see you in a season.
Next season, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil.
We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends.
And so would they.
If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting.
Take them to Stitcher or iTunes, or best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com.
That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the mithril's hot.